Hi guys, so today you're going to get two videos. These are the videos that were originally scheduled for May and June. They are tips videos. This first video is going to be tips for living with chronic medical conditions, and it's just going to be a little video. So when I say chronic medical conditions, I am referring to physical things. In my case, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and I also include my digestive system as a complete disaster. It'd be easier to list what parts of it work properly instead of which parts have problems. So I include that because it does affect quality of life, and I do have to learn to work around it. I'm not referring to mental disorders in this video, and things I can't control, like the small amount of money I get from the government or the huge wait list for subsidized housing. That's going to be a different video as well. This is about things you can't control. So what I would say your goal is, if you've been diagnosed with something that's life-changing, um, your goal is acceptance as much as possible. I don't think one can ever fully accept their life being turned upside down. Even if I stay in this state for 40 more years, I'll still have bad days, I think, where I will be fed up and not want to deal with things and frustrated and want a normal life. But most days I've learned to be content in spite of my limitations. If you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be 31 years old, living on disability, living in, my parents' basement, I wouldn't have believed you. I had no intention of not working. As much as I've never liked working, that's what adults do. So I was going to get a job, rent an apartment. I was going to be an adult. I never imagined that this would be where I was. But I've had to accept it. I don't have a choice. This is the hand I've been dealt. I have to play the hand I've been dealt, so to speak. To get to that acceptance, it takes time. It doesn't happen quickly, and you kind of have to have the right attitude. You can't, if you're gonna pity yourself and be annoyed at everything, you're gonna stay frustrated. You won't accept and be content in spite of, have the best life you can. You'll never get there. So the first thing I would say to get there, to have the right, cultivate the right attitude, to get to acceptance, do not compare. I do this constantly. I'm guilty. Um, well, maybe not constantly. I'm getting better. But people my age, when I go on Facebook, I see them with their spouses, children. They own proper houses. They have jobs, and I have none of those things. Some of them I don't want, some I do. I have none of those things right now, and you know what? Okay, that's their life. This is my life. Doesn't matter what their life looks like because this is the life I'm living. And it takes a long time to get to a point where I can easily sit here and say that. I haven't worked full time since 2016, and it actually started with mental illness, and then the physical stuff piled on top. And it's been, so yeah, 4 years. So and that's how long it takes, if not longer, I think, for some people, to get to the place I'm at. And I do wish to return to work one day, and I do wish to have more to life than I have now. But this is what I have right now. So this is what I'm accepting. And don't compare it to your past either. My past self used to go to work all day, commute into downtown Toronto, and then do things in the evening sometimes. I have a couple specific memories of being at work all day and then going somewhere in the evening. Um, one time I had tickets for an event after a job that was downtown. I think it was would have been 7:30 in the morning when I left for work. I think 10:30 at night when I got back to the house. I'm exhausted now just saying that. There's no way I could do that now, and that's okay. It's frustrating, and I'm allowed to be frustrated. I'm allowed to have those emotions, and I'm allowed to want my life back, but then I have to get up and keep going. It's my responsibility and no one else's. I've been dealt this hand. I like that saying. So it's my responsibility to play the heck out of it and try to have the best life I can. Um, and another thing to do that is to live day to day, especially when you have conditions that go up and down like I do. I like to have plans and schedules and routines and all that. But if I'm having a day where I'm completely exhausted and my neck hurts and I want to go to bed at 6 p.m., okay, then I'm going to go lie down. I'll try and stay awake longer than that and watch, stream videos on my tablet or Netflix or whatever, right? But if I fall asleep, I fall asleep because that's the kind of day I was having. And if something was scheduled for that day, you can wait till the next day. Um, Big events, bigger things, you kind of have to strike with the iron taut. Well, but what's big varies per person. For me, some days I couldn't even manage to do these videos, to be honest. But what I do, I have a date in mind for the videos, and then as long as I'm feeling good enough, I get it done. I've learned to work with my body instead of waiting until I might feel better. I just do it if I'm good enough. Because if I wait, I might wait a long time. I might never really feel better than that particular day. I might actually get worse. So if I can do a thing today, if I can do a thing right now, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work with my body. And, it was even shorter than I expected. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do then? I'm going to combine my two videos into one for today. So I'm going to go into now tips for dealing with doctors. Because not only did I just mention some of the chronic problems I have, I've been plopped in front of doctors my whole life. I didn't develop right as a baby. And I had, weird behavior when I started school. So, yeah, okay, so let's dive into here. So I got the idea to do a video about dealing with doctors because I was reading an article written by a man who is an MD, but he actually practiced as a naturopath and then later went back to school. And what intrigued me was his reasoning for becoming a naturopath in the first place. When he was a teenager, he went to a doctor, a dermatologist, for I think it was a rash of some sort, he said. And the appointment was very fast. He said he felt like he barely could talk. He felt like he was rushed up the door and the doctor wasn't listening. This is very subjective, by the way, but what he describes was the appointment being very fast, was the long and short of it. And he was so disappointed that he went to see a naturopath who spent like an hour with him and talked about all kinds of different history and health. And he says in retrospect, it was the cream that the dermatologist gave him that actually did the trick. But he was so unhappy with that appointment that it turned him off of Western medicine for a long time. And I'm reading this as someone who's in front of doctors my whole life and going, I don't really see the problem here. Yes, they're busy, and yet some are rude. Some do make you feel like you're being rushed out of the room. It's not the best thing in the world. But if the treatment you got solved the problem, then what's the issue? Okay, so it wasn't a perfect appointment, but I don't see why it was so bad that he had to turn away from Western medicine. But obviously it was for him. So that made me think a lot of people probably aren't that prepared compared to where I am when they go to see doctors because they haven't lived in front of them like I feel I have. So I'm going to give you some tips and some things to watch out for and good to know. So yes, appointments can be quite fast. It's rare to go into a doctor's office unless it's like there was one walk-in clinic that used to be open until like midnight. That I went to once with a mouth flare up, and there's like no one in there. But okay, that's extremely unusual. Usually doctors are very busy. They have a lot of people to see, so they want to get you in, find out what the problem is, give you a solution, and get you out. They don't have time for a big long discussion, and I don't think that it's necessarily the hallmark of a bad doctor. I think it's you want quality over quantity. I've had some doctors do keep you in longer than others, and but the important thing is not how long they're keeping you in there per se. The important thing is, are you getting the treatment you need? Are you getting? Yes, that's right. Sorry, I have notes here. So, for example, when I had my follow-up recently for my gallbladder removal surgery, I think the appointment took about 5 minutes. He looked at my scars. I discussed some symptoms I'd had. He looked at my pathology report with me, which confirmed that it needed to come out. It wasn't just a few big stones that could be removed. It was like jammed full of tiny stones, and they were rubbing, and the gallbladder was inflamed, and that leads to infected gallbladder, and that leads to other things around getting infected. So I made the right decision, going along with getting it taken out. I was wondering, and okay, I got the information I needed. The appointment took about 5 minutes, but what's the problem? I got the information I needed, so be prepared. And I could have asked questions. If I had more questions, I could have asked them. He didn't boot me out of the room. But be prepared that if you're, especially if you're used to going to alternative practitioners, you're not going to get that, good, bad, or indifferent, with an MD. And I'll give you a comparison. When I was between family doctors and I had some sinus pain, I went to a family doctor who was recommended to me by a family member. I spent 20 minutes in her exam room. She, when I told her about my diagnoses and my medications, she was very dismissive. You don't have fibromyalgia, you don't have fatigue, you don't have depression. If you got a job, you would be fine. And then she decided, after having known me for about 5 minutes, she decided that I should be a counselor. And went on her computer and started Googling university programs. And I'm sitting there wondering what the heck is happening. And in the last, 30 seconds of the appointment, she acknowledged my sinuses and threw some antibiotics at me. I didn't have a sinus infection. I actually have missing sinuses. And those antibiotics caused me problems, bad side effects. So, quantity over quality. Be prepared. It might be fast. If it gets you the information you need, it's good enough. Okay. Yes. Okay. That being said, if you're really unhappy with a doctor for any reason whatsoever, it's your choice. You don't have to go back and see them. Get second opinions. Ask lots of questions. Your care is your choice. You don't have to do any treatment. I hear people say, well, the doctor said I had to do it. It's your body. I'm not advocating making dumb decisions. I'm not advocating not getting cancer treatment for something that's curable. I've heard some ridiculous stories like that. But it's your choice. If you have curable cancer and you want to see an acupuncturist instead, okay. The doctor's not going to chase you down the hallway with medicine. It's your choice. I got a second opinion once when I had a sleep study, and the guy it turns out in Ontario, you don't need a lot of qualifications in sleep medicine to run a sleep study, a sleep lab. Basically, if you're a doctor, you can do it. This guy's expertise was lungs, and he was like, you don't have sleep apnea, therefore you're fine. So I went back to my family doctor, got another opinion, got a referral rather for another doctor, and that guy was wonderful. And I got information from the second person. So instead of just accepting the first guy, he must know he's the doctor, I asked questions. And I got another opinion. In my case, I did some of the legwork, and I had a name in mind. And when I went back to my family doctor, I said, I want to see this person. You don't have to do that, though. You just speak up. It's your choice. Ask questions. Okay. And here are some things I think are good to know. Things to be prepared for when you go to see a doctor if you're not used to seeing them. If you are into alternative medicine, there's a very, very good chance if you go see an MD, it's not universal, but very, very almost universal. They will be against the alternatives. They will tell you to stop taking them. You'll get some sort of resistance. Okay, to me, so be prepared for that. And like I said, your choice. If that really bothers you and you don't want to see that doctor because of that, fine. But I don't think that's a good enough reason. I think people would miss out. My previous family doctor was dead set against that stuff, but he was so knowledgeable and he was able to help me diagnose other things, and I would have lost out if I rejected him for that reason. I actually saw someone give that advice in a book, that you should reject doctors who are against alternative medicine. Your choice, but I would just be prepared. Be prepared for the reaction you might get and don't take it personally. And, see if they have the information you need for your specific thing. And don't, unless the alternative medicine is extremely relevant to your treatment, I wouldn't reject a doctor on that. I would just be prepared. And another thing is they don't know everything about everything medical. I saw someone on TV. This is another example. I have lots of examples in this video. This person was interviewing a few different doctors because she was looking into a complex procedure that isn't done much. And one specialist she spoke to was completely unfamiliar with a previous procedure that she'd had, so she wrote him off as a bad doctor and said she was definitely not using him for that reason. And I found that very frustrating because I didn't think that was, maybe more happened that we didn't see on TV, but I didn't think that alone was a very good reason. That person could be extremely well versed in his specialty, but he may know nothing about this other procedure you brought up that's very new from a totally different specialty and wouldn't have directly affected this doctor's treatment of you. He had the correct knowledge for the thing he was treating. They're not going to know everything about everything. So be prepared for that as well. That's why family doctors tend to know a little bit about a lot of things, and specialists will know a lot about one thing. And sort of similar, next to are sort of similar. Science changes. We've just seen this with the coronavirus. How at first they were saying masks weren't necessary, and now they're like yelling about masks, which does make some people skeptical. But science changes. We find new things out all the time. If you're still receiving the same treatment today that someone was receiving in 1920, that's the problem. No one would want that. So why do they get annoyed when new information comes out, when new things change? The problem is doctors are not Google. They're not going to, some are really good at keeping up to date. My family doctor was wonderful. He had like decades of experience and was also very good at keeping up with new things. Some aren't as good as that, and that could be problematic if they know absolutely nothing about your problem. So bear that in mind, that especially if you are with an older doctor. But once again, don't just completely write off the doctor. If they have the information you need, just accept that they're not human Googles. They may not know all the news. Be prepared for that. And also be prepared. Different doctors have different experiences. I was reading an article about why people become anti-vaxxers. And one lady's story was that her daughter was born with a particular condition. And one doctor said she should do a procedure. Another doctor said she should wait and see. She chose to wait and see. The baby turned out to be fine with the wait and see approach. So she extrapolated from that this doctor didn't know anything, that science doesn't know anything, and she just went and totally turned her back on medicine, and pretty much. And my jaw was on the floor reading this. These are two different human beings. They're going to have different opinions. They're going to have seen different things work and not work. They're going to have preferences. Unless they're conjoined twins, two specialists in the exact same field may still very well have different experiences and opinions. So that means gather information and make a choice that feels right to you. It doesn't mean run the other way screaming for medicine. So be prepared. That's another possibility. If you're getting a theme here, it's that nothing is carved in stone. It's that they're not going to pull out a book necessarily and say, here's the exact solution for your problem, guaranteed to work. If that's what you're expecting, no. Especially with chronic problems. With my pain doctor, we tried 4 other medications for fibromyalgia before the one we were on. One made my moods weird, one sedated me, they all had different side effects. So we had to keep trying because I am not pages in a book, I'm a human with unique physiology. So we had to keep trying things with me until we found something that worked. There's a lot of, I don't want to say guesswork in medicine, but you could say it's an art as well as a science, because each practitioner is going to have their own little niche preferences, the way they like to do things, but it doesn't mean one is better than the other. It means they're two separate human beings with different opinions and ideas. And that leads into, there are a lot of unknowns in medicine. People, what the heck? Oh, sorry. It's good when you can't read your own notes. People get frustrated when doctors can't explain seemingly simple problems to them. They expect them to know everything. Unless your medical condition has a known like gene defect that causes it, or lifestyle, like you're a smoker for 50 years, now you have lung cancer. No questions there. Many other things they will not be able to give you a reason for. Pretty much everything I'm diagnosed with, they can't tell me why I'm so tired. They can't tell me why my muscles hurt. And is it frustrating? Do I want an answer? Yes. But if you're getting frustrated, remind yourself how not simple medicine is by trying to read a medical journal article. If you're like me and you're kind of a nerd and you can actually read some of those articles, go for genetics. That stuff is so confusing. I get about 2 sentences in and give up. And it's a good reminder of how complex it actually is, how complex our bodies are, and why some things that might seem simple to you are actually not, and why we don't have answers yet. But also remember many things in the past. Multiple sclerosis used to be called hysterical paralysis. Hysterical meaning emotional, mental illness, because they didn't know, could not find a physical cause for many years. And now we know it's brain lesions. It's not the person's gone nuts, as they were, implying. But that took many years. So who knows, decades from now, what they might know about my assorted conditions. So is it frustrating that they can't give you answers? Yes. It doesn't mean turn your back on science. It doesn't mean they don't know anything. Just be prepared. And be prepared as well. This last one does frustrate me, I won't lie. You will be treated in... Sorry, guys. You will be treated in, I'd say, segments. This frustrates me. I would love to get a team of doctors together and be like, here are all my problems, here are my medications, come up with a regimen for me. That's not how it works, unfortunately. My psychiatrist does not care about my gallbladder. Uh, my pain doctor doesn't care what my psychiatrist is doing, other than knowing the medications from each. Excuse me. They all have to know the medications from each. That's all has to be communicated. But other than that, they only care about the segment or part of you that they're trained in, which I do find frustrating because I don't exist in parts. Everything is interacting. And that is something I would like to see change in Western medicine. But for now, that's how it is. And it's just another thing to be prepared for. I feel like I went pretty in depth with that. If anyone thinks I missed anything in the doctor's department or has any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments, because I could probably go on all day, because I've been, like I said, dealing with doctors. So I'm going to wrap up now, because I kind of made one long video. Yeah, I'm not going to go any longer. Okay. Alright, thank you guys. Bye.